Hello, U.S. History Online students. Our first unit of study begins with the English colonization of North America. However, prior to that colonization, there's a long history of peoples living in and exploring the Western Hemisphere, including North and South America. I'm going to give you just a brief overview of that history prior to that English settlement that comes in the early 17th century. That history begins with the very first peoples finding their way into the Western Hemisphere. Scientists, archaeologists, and historians believe that those people first populated this part of the world roughly 20,000 years ago. The theory is that these people crossed over from Asia using Beringia, which is a phrase that describes a land bridge that was created when the Earth's temperatures cooled, the oceans froze, and the land was exposed. It's theorized that roughly 12,000 years ago, the Earth's temperature started to warm again, the glaciers receded, and left open land for these people to travel southward and to spread out across North America and South America. The descendants of these people became the Native American tribes and cultures that existed in the Western Hemisphere prior to Europeans exploring this part of the world. Historians now also believe that people traveled to North America not just using the land bridge. There is evidence to show that many people, particularly in South America, are the descendants of travelers who may have come across the South Pacific using their very own made boats to literally island hop across the South Pacific, make their way to Hawaii, and eventually to the western shores of the Western Hemisphere. Who were the first Europeans to discover North America? Many people would say Columbus, but you would be wrong. There's a lot of evidence that shows that Scandinavian explorers, people that we refer to as the Vikings, first made their way from the North Atlantic, going from Iceland to Greenland and then to the northeast shores of Canada as early as the late 900s. The archaeological remains that have found have shown that the Vikings certainly made it to North America, but they did not stay permanently. Now, the explorer who most people associate with discovering North America was Christopher Columbus, and his first voyage, representing the King and Queen of Spain, took place in 1492, where he and other men sailed 3 ships, the Nina, the Pinta, and the Santa Maria, across the Atlantic Ocean and discovered some islands in what is today the Bahama Islands. Columbus would make several other journeys, and he's generally given credit with opening the door for European exploration of the Western Hemisphere. Columbus was the first of many explorers, representing not only Spain, but Portugal, France, and England, and the Dutch, who made their way throughout the Atlantic, exploring parts of the Western Hemisphere, sub-Saharan Africa, and the rest of the world. This time period of the world is generally referred to as the Age of Exploration. Because of Columbus and other Spanish explorers' achievements, in the 1500s, Spain became the world's dominant empire. As you can see in this map, the areas represented in brown are territories that Spain had claimed, colonized, and controlled throughout the 16th century. Shortly after Spanish exploration of North America, the French were involved in exploring parts of North America. Their goal was not to seek or explore and control these parts. Rather, they were interested in what is referred to as a Northwest Passage. That is, finding a route through the Arctic Sea to Asia. Although they were unable to do this because of the Arctic ice caps, they did or were the first European explorers to discover and find and explore the Great Lakes region. A French explorer by the name of Jacques Cartier in 1534 was one of the first Europeans to come through the St. Lawrence River Valley and explore the Great Lakes region. As you can see in this map, the Spanish, represented in green, controlled large portions of South America, Central America, and North America, including the Caribbean. The Portuguese controlled what is today Brazil. The French, represented in blue, controlled the interior of North America, including the Great Lakes region. The Russians controlled what is the western coast of Canada, including portions of Alaska. And finally, the British were able to establish their control of areas along the Atlantic seaboard. This is a map of British settlements along the Atlantic seaboard. These settlements began in the early 1600s. The British, in many ways, were the last Europeans to explore this part of the world, and therefore the only areas that were left unclaimed were these small slivers of land in what is today the eastern United States. The first area of English settlement was in Jamestown, or what we refer to today as Virginia, in the Chesapeake region of North America. Another colony that developed in the area of Jamestown a little later, starting in the 1630s, was Maryland. You'll notice on this map, the English colonization of the Atlantic seaboard later developed into what we refer to as the first 13 English colonies and became the origins of what later would become the first 13 states and the United States of America.